Okay, as I see, we have quite a lot of participants joining us today. Let me welcome all the participants to join our webinar for today. So before we start, would all the participants please mute your audio once joining the webinar? If you have any questions, please state it in the chat box, and we will have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. If you would like to enjoy a free 30 minutes consultation, please type 30 minutes in the chat box. Our representative will contact you with you accordingly. So let's begin. Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's webinar, which we are going to introduce Australia Migration Program today. Let me introduce myself to you all. I am the Account Director of CCGi, who is the Immigration Advisor of Global Migration Solution in Hong Kong. Global Migration Solution is our registered migration advisory partner in Malaysia. We work with GMS to provide migration advisory to the countries such as USA, Australia, New Zealand, Portugal, etc. GMS was founded by Desmond, and he is a licensed immigration advisor for the last 16 years. One of his achievements is to be awarded as one of the world's top 50 migration CEO by the New Global in Los Angeles. And also, you can see the pictures over here. And also, that's also interviewed by Goldman Sachs before. He came to GMS office in Malaysia to interview Desmond in one of the local TV programs. So, after a brief introduction on GMS, to start with, let me introduce our speaker of today, Ms. Audrey Anthony, Associate Director, Global Migration Solutions. She is the authoritative expert in skilled migration with more than 10 years professional experience in the related field. She will share the benefits of migrating to Australia and, most importantly, the basic criteria and rough timeline of the visa application. Audrey, would you like to say hi to our participants today?
Hi, everyone. Wonderful to join you all today.
Thank you. Our next speaker of today is Bianca, who is the founder and director Humanitas HR, has more than 20 years experience in the field of human resources and assisted many job seekers to build their ideal career. The company uses AI intelligence technology to assist job seekers and employers to match and at the same time provide the job seekers with the latest market trends and information so that they can seize every opportunity for success. She will introduce the trend, pay benefits, and skills which are in demand nowadays in Australia. Hi Bianca, would you like to say hello to our participants today?
Hi everyone, I'm really excited to be joining you this evening.
Hi, thank you, Bianca. So without further ado, let me pass the time to Audrey to introduce the visa application of today. Audrey, your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Pian. Thanks everyone for making time to join the session today. I understand what's happening in Hong Kong right now. Unfortunately, y'all are going through a third wave. I hope everyone is currently safe and secure at the comfort of your own homes. And hoping that sooner or later, everyone is going to battle this together and overcome COVID once and for all. In the meantime, let's plan ahead on how we can move forward to plan for your migration in Australia. I will keep the session as concise as possible so that we can have more time for Q&A later. So before I actually start off with the visa application process, I'm just going to quickly go through the company for a bit. So Pian, could you please go to the next page, please?
Sure.
All right. So Global Migration Solutions, we carry ourselves as a premier migration advisory firm, advocating the right and genuine migration practices. So we are very particular in the way we actually offer advice to clients, and you can be rest assured that everything is true and accurate according to the latest migration policies. With 16 years of experience, we have a 99% success rate, and we are happy to share with you that we have helped more than 12,000 families migrate to Australia in this past 16 years, and we are hoping that this figure will continue to grow. We have 5 offices across Asia Pacific. We have in Singapore, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and we also have a service office in Australia. And we are the only company in Malaysia that has been awarded with the top 50 Global Migration CEO Award, which PN has explained earlier that Desmond Ang, our Managing Director, got this award in Los Angeles. And this is actually an award given to all the migration companies globally. And we are proud to say that we are one of the top 50. Next, please. Pian, could we go for the next one, please? And we are represented by 2 migration agents, which is Desmond Ang himself, who is the owner and the managing director. And the other agent that is also with our company is James Allen Hall. So James Allen Hall is an Australian agent, and he's based in Singapore. So Desmond and James and myself, we work very closely together to ensure that all the migration legislations are correctly met. It is important that you are really dealing with an experienced migration agent. Desmond and James have got immense knowledge in migration, and both of them have their own qualities. Just to share with you, Desmond's background is ACCA. He's a chartered accountant. He was working for PwC. He's a very detailed person. James, on the other hand, is now one step higher than just a migration agent. He is now a certified trainer for a migration agent. So both of them come with very great knowledge to make sure that your applications are in safe hands. Next, please. This is our team in Malaysia. We can go next as well. So everyone is here to support the visa application process. Okay, so that was about the company. Now let's begin about Australia. So just before we get into a little bit more factual information, I just wanted to share this fun fact with you. So this is the Australian map, and there are 6 states and 2 territories in Australia. So Australia everyone knows Australia is really large. So the population in Hong Kong is about 7.5 million, coming close to 7.5 million. Australia is not too far away from that. Australia has about 25 million, okay? But do you know how many times larger is Australia than Hong Kong? Okay, so I actually did a quick research, and Australia is actually 6,900 times bigger than Hong Kong, okay? So this is quite just an interesting fact to share. Now let's get to the most serious aspect. Next, please. Why Australia? So the reason why y'all are here today is because Australia has been definitely at the back of your mind as one of the appealing countries. In 2018, I believe there was about 7,000 over migrants that left Hong Kong, and 1/3 of these migrants actually chose Australia as their migration destination. That being said, you can be assured that Australia is one of the top migration destinations, not just globally, but also for those in Hong Kong. So let's find out why. What makes Australia appealing? First and foremost, Australia has always been known to have a world-class education system. Many of the universities have international recognition, very well known, and in fact, the entire education system in Australia is very different. If you're looking at primary and secondary school, it is more of a holistic education system where it's just not purely academic, it is also to make someone street smart. Sorry, Pian, could you just go back to the other slide? Yes. So next is Australia is also very well known to be a safe country, politically stable, okay, and very family friendly as well. So that is why if you actually look into the OECD index year after year, the OECD index that talks about the world's most livable cities, Australia never fails to be in the top 10. Okay, and when we talk about Australia, we're talking about a couple of states actually coming on top 10. So there was actually one particular year where 4 states actually came on world's most livable cities top 10, which is Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, and Sydney. Okay, so this, and why do they get this kind of recognition? It is not just because of one single factor. It is because of how stable their politics is, how stable the economy is, and how good the infrastructure is also. That's how they derive this. The healthcare in Australia is definitely commendable. Even in the latest, in the recent COVID issue, you would actually see that they actually managed it very well in terms of getting the patients treated. Housing is another wonderful factor. I'm sure there's a lot of clients in Hong Kong who also loves investing in real estate in Australia, because it's very, very affordable compared to Hong Kong for sure. So you can actually get a nice 2-bedroom house for like 500,000 AUD, a 2-bedroom house. So Australia is also multicultural. So, but Australia, I think, is having some interference, is it? Okay, let me just. Okay, so Australia is also very much migrant friendly because it's a multicultural society. 70% of Australia's population is actually made out of migrants. Okay, 70%. Australia has always been a migrant-friendly nation. The fact that you get many people from different countries, and that is why it is so easy to adapt into Australia. You do not find yourself as if you cannot fit into the culture, because the Australian culture itself is built from various different countries coming together. And what else is attractive? The young people, all the young people who comes to my office to say that they want to migrate, they talk about Australia, they want to migrate because they always feel that, oh, I need work-life balance. So what is actually work-life balance? So work-life balance is where the Asian working culture is always something where your work is so hectic, you do not actually have time for yourself. But in Australia, when there's a lot of time for your own self, you usually work 9 to 5, after 5 is all your time. Okay, so all these factors comes together and make Australia a real nice place to start beginning a new life. Okay, next please. These are just the top 10 universities in Australia. I'm sure many of you would know University of Melbourne, University of Sydney. These are all the top 10 universities. And by being an Australian PR, you would actually be able to study in these universities by only paying about 30% of what an international student would be paying. Okay, next please. Now let me run through with you the top 10 Australian PR benefits. Okay, so the first and foremost, when you are an Australian PR, you will get free medical benefits once in Australia. And when you talk about free, it's free access to government public healthcare. You can live and work in Australia indefinitely. Okay. You get family tax relief benefits. So in Australia, this is usually for income earners below 100,000 per annum. The government provides a lot of tax relief benefits, especially to like school-going children. They've got different schemes under Family Tax Benefit A, Family Tax Benefit B, where like just to share with you, my clients used to share with me that they get about 100 AUD per fortnight for each child. Okay, so this would really help with your living costs as well. Free and subsidized education. Primary and secondary school is free. And when you go into tertiary education, as mentioned, when you are an Australian PR, when you go into universities, tertiary, right, once you complete school, you would only need to pay about 30% of what an international student would be paying. You've got full work rights under an Australian visa as well. So work rights are important. I'm sure many of you who has very keen interest on Australia would have tried applying for jobs now. So do let us know what is the kind of feedback that you get from the recruiters. The recruiters always come back to you to say, do you have work rights, right? So without work rights, pretty much nothing happens. You first will need to get the work rights. So first you get the visa, then you've got your full work rights, and then you find your job, okay? Welfare benefits and pathway to Australian citizenship. By being an Australian PR or even as a temporary resident that we're going to be talking about later, you will eventually get a citizenship. You get first home buyer grant. When you're a PR and you buy your first property, the government subsidizes your first purchase with a certain range from 8,000 to 12,000, depending on which state you live in. You can sponsor a family member. You can actually sponsor your parents once you've obtained your PR, a spouse, your child. Okay, if you're sponsoring your siblings or anything, it's going to be under skilled migration. And another attractive part about Australian PR is it's always good as a citizen. So, did you know by being an Australian PR and being an Australian citizen, the only difference between these two is as a citizen, you will not be able to as a citizen, as a PR, you will not be able to vote and you will not be able to work in the government sector because you will need some security clearance. These are the only two aspects that a PR cannot have access to, voting and working in the government. Other than that, being a PR is totally identical as being an Australia citizen. Okay. Next, please. Okay. So I hope that kind of summed up, give you a little idea about why Australia has always been the most spoken about country for migration. That these are all the attractive factors that comes together. Now let's go into the visa option. So when you speak about migration to Australia, this is the framework of the migration Australia. Main thing first is why is migration important to Australia is to build the economy. So how do you build the economy? It's through business and investment migration. So our company, we also do business migration. So for business migration, you will need to have a minimum turnover of 500,000 AUD. For investment, it starts from 1.5 million Australian dollars. For family migration, this is basically to reunite family members. Okay, this is when you do your parent visa, spouse visa, child visa. Next, migration is also important to support labor market demand, which is through the employment visa, and to shape the society, which is through general skill migration. So today, as much as we do all this, our focus is going to be on general skill migration. Next, please. So when you actually speak about a skill migration to Australia, there are 3 types of visas we could look at. The first visa is called a skill independent visa subclass 189. So when you say independent, this means that you do not need to have a sponsorship from a state government or a sponsorship from a relative, which means you independently apply for your visa without any form of nomination or sponsorship, but you need to have high points on this. This gives you a direct PR. Okay, so when your visa is granted today, you're a full PR in Australia. And this visa, of course, is very attractive, but it's also getting very tough. It's getting tough because you need to get really, really high points. So when you come to us, what we will do is we will assess you to see if this is a suitable visa for you or not. Next. The second visa is skill nominated subclass 190. So skill nominated also gives you a direct PR, just like the 189. Both of them are direct PR, but the difference is for this, you would need to obtain a state nomination through the state government. Okay, so what happens is you need to see your skill is actually listed on which particular state's demand list, apply for nomination, and then only you have an invitation to lodge a visa. This is also getting slightly scarce already because a lot of importance are being given to those who are already onshore in the particular state to get this visa. Okay, so basically Australia, to be honest with you, Australia government's migration direction is to give you a PR, yes, but they would like you to first go through a transition from a temporary residence to a permanent residence. So which visa has that kind of benefit is the next visa. Okay, so the visa that is very popular now is actually called Regional Sponsored Subclass 491. This visa can be applied through two pathways. It's either you use the relative or the state nomination. And you will be granted with a temporary residence first. But this temporary residence, it's really, really good because this temporary residence has a direct pathway to a permanent residency. Okay, so this is not like a work visa. I'm sure many of you might have researched that temporary residents are short-term, right? But temporary residents that are short-term are like employment visa, a temporary graduate visa. All these do not have an automatic conversion into a PR, but this has an automatic conversion into a PR provided you fulfill two conditions. So what is the condition that can make you convert from a TR to a PR? You need to be residing in a regional area in Australia for 3 years, and you also need to be employed for 3 years, also in a regional area, with a taxable income of 53,900 per annum. As long as you fulfill these two conditions, you can surely convert into the PR. So when we talk about regional areas, we'll go into the next slide. Yeah, can we go to the next one, please? So the fact that when I mentioned the subclass 189 and 190 is getting a little bit more tougher, of late we are seeing that. I mean, in the past 10 years, we have done so many visas for our clients, and I can already see the trend that this too is getting tighter. So we need to come up with a more possible solution for our clients. So I'm drilling down a little into 491. So why should you choose to apply for the 491? The first reason is this visa, as I mentioned, has a definite pathway to a PR, and it's not a complex condition to fill, right? Because they're giving you a 5 years visa, and in the 5 years, you just need to make sure you stay for 3 years and work for 3 years in a taxable income of 53,900, and this is an achievable income. Bianca later, who will be also talking to you, will be able to show more information on this. And there are wide options of regional areas. Under this visa, you only cannot stay in 3 cities, which is Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne. For the first 3 years, until you convert into a PR, you cannot live or work in these 3 cities. But there are so many other cities in Australia that are also equally appealing, such as Perth. Perth is now regional. You can live and work in Gold Coast. If you want to be near to Sydney, you can work in Newcastle. If you want to be nearer to Melbourne, you can live and work in Geelong, okay? Otherwise, you can also go to South Australia, Adelaide. So the government, the fact that they are encouraging this visa, they have actually opened up more regional areas, and these are the wider options available through this visa. And unlike other temporary resident visas that you would have heard of, this temporary resident visa comes with almost PR-like benefits. Not everything, but the most important is already given, which is medical benefit. Okay, usually medical benefits are only given to permanent residents, but when the government implemented 491, Medicare has been given to you, free education for primary and secondary, and there's also an ongoing proposal which is still pending in Parliament. But this ongoing proposal basically talks about a subclass 491 visa holder to have the same benefit as a permanent resident. Okay, so let's hope that comes true. But even should that take its time, whatever that is given right now, it's already very great for a temporary resident. Next, please. You qualify with 50 points. Why is that? Because you will actually get 15 points for nomination from a subclass 491. Okay, so but of course we need to take this with a bit of pinch of salt, because some occupations you would need higher points, okay, much higher points, but there are some occupations that can qualify just with minimum 65 points. Okay, and you should come to us to let us gauge that for you. Next, please. And priority processing is being given by immigration for this visa. Okay, so other visas usually take, after you've submitted a visa, it takes about 10 months to a year to obtain it. But this visa, immigration has ordered a priority processing order, meaning that anyone who submits this visa will be getting their visa in about average 3 months time after visa submission. So these are the top reasons why you should also be looking at a 491 as your option. Though it is known as temporary residence, you should really see what kind of visa will get you into a permanent resident. Okay? Next, please. Next, please. All right. Okay. So we have already seen why is Australia attractive. We have already seen what are the type of visas available. Now we need to see what are the basic requirements and to qualify for a skill migration. So the first thing is you need to have an occupation on the mic. First, you need to have a nominated occupation. So how do you know what is a nominated occupation? There is 3 categories of occupation, which is the long-term list, the short-term list, and the regional list with different kind of occupations. We need to first match you to that occupation. Okay. Next, you need to have a generally high level of English. So when we talk about generally high level of English, we're talking about at least a band 7. If you look at the immigration website, it talks about band 6, but to be more practical, it's usually band 7. You need to be also under the age of 45, and it's a point-based system. Okay, so minimum is 65 points. You get points for various factors. You get points if you're single. Okay, that's one of the most attractive things that just happened last in November. When you're single, you get 10 points. Okay, you get points for higher English, and that's how the system, point-based system is. Next, please. So now I'm going to share with you what is the process of skill migration. So as I mentioned, the first thing is you need to have a migratable occupation, right? So how do you have a migratable occupation? Is first we need to send, so let's say we have done an assessment for you and we say that, okay, you are a human resource advisor, or you are a marketing specialist, or you are a financial investment advisor. So we do the pre-assessment, but who actually goes through and confirms this? We need to send your documents to the Skills Assessment Authority in Australia. Okay, so there are different authorities for different occupation, and every authority has got different requirements. Okay, we need to be very careful in making sure your education meets Australian standards. Some assessment authorities will deduct your work experience, so we need to be very careful in the way of filing in your application for this. And then you also need to do your English test. So for the English test, there are many options. Of course, the most popular is IELTS and PTE. Personally, here with my clients in Malaysia, we always recommend for them to go for PTE. Somehow, it is an easier system to score higher points. So I usually encourage my clients to do the PTE. The first step is to get your nomination done and the English. Next, please. So once you've gotten your result on your nomination and the English, we then submit the expression of interest for you. So when we submit the expression of interest, that is when we need to determine what is the type of visa you're applying for. Are you applying for a skill independent? Are you using a relative, or are you using a state nomination? So all this we would help to determine for you at that time to see which is the best way forward for you. But what's important is in either one of this pathway, the objective is to get an invitation. Okay, and only when you get an invitation, you can lodge a visa. Could you please go to next, please? Right. So without invitation, a visa application cannot be done. Yeah. So invitation is very important, and we play a crucial role in making sure that you get an invitation. Okay, it's because we have to monitor all the states, we have to monitor all the requirements to see which fits you best, and then we'll put it in for you, hoping to get the invitation. And then we submit the visa, and only after you submit a visa, you need to complete your medical test and your police check. Once all this is done, you get your visa approval. Just go, can you just click next, please? Yes. So this is basically the flow of skill migration. Okay. Sorry, could you just go back? Thank you, Pian. Okay, so this is basically the flow of skill migration. It's actually stage by stage. So we need to walk you through stage by stage to make sure every requirement is met until the visa decision is obtained. Okay. Next, please. All right. So I'm not sure if when I presented everything truthfully to you, it sounded like as if it was getting tougher. Okay, yeah, it is getting tough, but that doesn't mean migration has stopped. Okay, Australia certainly still needs migrants. Australia definitely needs migrants, and it's never too late to apply for Melbourne or Sydney. Okay, as much as I said that the most favorable visa is a 491, but let us help you determine to see if you still have that little bit of small window of opportunity to apply for cities like Melbourne or Sydney. At the same time, if that doesn't work, Perth, Gold Coast, Adelaide, Tasmania, all these other places are welcoming migrants, right? So what you should remember is to always try and apply to any state that gets you in first. Convert yourself to a PR, because after you've done your conversion, you can go to any state at all. Okay, and migration actually adds up to 1% to annual average GDP growth in Australia. It is predicted to be from 2020 to 2050. And a skilled migrant. So why wouldn't skilled migration stop? Is because a skilled migrant of a working age is likely add more to tax revenue versus government support, which you can see for yourself. If you actually go on a surplus 491, you're actually going to be paying tax. So when you actually pay tax, it is of benefit to Australia. And Australia also has an aging population. Okay, so with all these factors coming in together, I just want to assure you that migration is still a very, very important aspect. Okay. Let's go to the next page. Hello?
Hi, Audrey. Hi, Audrey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is this
Is it fine? Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, I think it was muted. So this is just the photos of our success story. Okay, these are the clients who've gotten their visas approved. That is next, please. Okay, and I just want to share, okay, that's it of the process. I'm just going to share with you a little bit of testimonials of the success stories of our clients.
Hi Audrey, hi Desmond, this is Alvin, greetings from Melbourne. Thank you very much for making my migration process such a smooth one. And for the rest of you, if you want to come to Australia, you can count on Global Migration Solutions. They are very professional and they can give you the best advice that you can have. Well, the life in Melbourne is great, it's terrific, and my kids, they love and enjoy schooling here, and it's very holistic. Compared to many of you, they want to have a better education, this is the place that you should come. And I have work-life balance here, and I enjoy very much spending good time with my wife, good time with my kids, and the rest of the time with my family members, my relatives and friends over here. And good luck to the rest of you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim, and this is my husband, Sanjay. We engaged Global Migration in 2013 to help us with our visa application. We got our PR within 8 months from from the moment we met Global to visa grant.
Yeah, so we found working with Global great. We've had a great working experience with them. They've been very professional and efficient. They've helped guide us through the entire process. They helped, identify the exact visa that would suit our requirements to get a permanent residency. And we've moved here since 2015. And we love our new home. The public transport's great. It's safe. I cycle to work. So yeah.
It's clean.
Yep.
Good infrastructure and good quality of life.
Yep. So so we'd like to say a big thank you to Global.
Yep. And Audrey for helping us with our PR.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi.
Okay. So that's it from me. Thank you. And I think PN, you can pass it on to Bianca now.
Yes, thank you, Audrey. Thanks for the brief. Bianca, would you please also introduce the trend, the pay and benefits, and the skills which are in demand nowadays in Australia, please?
Definitely. What I'll be doing in the next 10 or 15 minutes is taking you through what it's like working in Australia and what the job market and prospects are. If we can go to the next page, please. So general trends around Australia. This week alone, there's over 71,000 jobs advertised on Seek. Seek is one of the major platforms, but there are other ones where jobs are advertised as well. So there is a healthy amount of jobs ready for people to take on at the moment. Like a large amount of the world, the COVID has impacted in some of our states, and I'm sure many of you are aware of what's happening in Victoria at the moment. Which means that there are some challenges in that market, but that doesn't mean that a range of other markets are still available in terms of taking in migrants and also great job prospects as well. With COVID, though, we have seen a change in what some of the sectors are and the demand and growth in some of the industries. And a great example of that is the health industry, where we're finding that there's some great trends in there looking at what sort of skills people are looking for within the job market and what employers are offering. And within the health, there are a wide range of jobs within there as well. So obviously to run a hospital or a health department, you need people with financial skills, you need people with human resource skills, IT skills. So anything within the health area, we're finding there's a great demand, as with some others as well. If we look right across Australia, the average weekly earnings at the moment is approximately $1,375. So you'll see that well and truly covers the $53,900 to get for the visa. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to do is take you through some of the major capital cities, give you a bit of an insight into them as well. And I've been really fortunate over my 20 years to have worked in a number of these cities, so I have some really good market intelligence within there. So in Sydney at the moment, there's over 23,000 roles currently being advertised. And just to give you, I've broken it down as well in each region, there's 13,000 of them have pay over $60,000, so well over the threshold as well, which gives an average weekly earning of $1,400. And I know Audrey spoke before about the fact that there's a challenge with Melbourne and Sydney being considered as part of the regional scheme, but it's still nice to have the insight for you all. The job growth areas in Sydney are really around science and technology, sport and recreation, and design and architecture. There's a massive amount of money going into a whole lot of infrastructure around Sydney at the moment, looking at how they connect the city better, and that design and architecture and the flow on engineering work that's coming out of that is substantial. Next page, please. So then we move on to Melbourne. So Melbourne is facing a few challenges at the moment, but even regarding that, they've still got over 17,000 vacancies advertised at the moment, of which 13,000 are over $60,000, and still has a very healthy average weekly earnings. A number of companies across Australia are headquartered in Melbourne. And given what's happening with COVID, there is a massive spike in growth jobs for marketing and communication roles. So there is while Sydney has the largest component of financial services businesses headquartered there, Melbourne do still have a significant amount within their city as well. So that's one thing to note. Next page, please. So Brisbane. Brisbane has over 11,000 jobs advertised on Seek at the moment, of which over 8,000 of them pay over $60,000, giving an average weekly earning of $1,300 in Queensland. The job growth there is really around banking and finance, legal and sales, and they've been really fortunate in the last week alone in Brisbane to have picked up some major sporting events due to the safeness of COVID within their state. So they're hosting the major Australian Football League and also Netball Leagues, which is going to put a huge influx of money into the state with the people that from hosting them as well. So it'll be interesting to see that dynamic change and look at what other job growth areas are going to come as a result of that for Queensland and Brisbane in particular. Next slide, please. Adelaide. So Adelaide's a much smaller market than any of the other three that have come before, and there's currently over 4,000 jobs advertised on Seek. Of a large portion of them, over 3,000 are over $60,000, leading to an average weekly earning of just over $1,200. The growth areas in that market are around call centre, engineering and IT, and they've found that Adelaide is in particular a very affordable hub in which to live, and they're looking at how do they build different industries within that state, which is why we're seeing the call centres and IT in particular having a surge in terms of opportunities for people there. Next slide, please. And then we'll move on to Canberra. Canberra's a really interesting one. They have over 3,700 jobs on Seek at the moment, of which a high portion of them are over $60,000. That's just due to the nature of the fact that that's the political centre of Australia. And a lot of the roles there are advisors to politicians or senior bureaucrats. So you expect that the average weekly earning is higher there than what it has been in some of the other states and capital cities. As a result of that, the job growth areas is really looking at how do they build human resources and build really good infrastructure around that, IT, and a big one, particularly due to the nature of Parliament, is the consulting and strategy piece as well, as we, along with every other country in the world, really looks at what is COVID and how is this going to change the way that we work. So it's not surprising to see those three areas as the high growth ones there in Canberra. Next slide, please. And then there's Perth. So Perth has over 9,000 jobs advertised on Seek, of which 7,000 of them are over $60,000, with the average weekly earning of $1,500. And it was interesting to note in the news today that WA has been called the engine room for Australia at the moment. And what has really kept the whole of Australia afloat at the moment is mining and what's happening in that space. And the majority of mining businesses are headquartered in WA and run their operations out of WA. So while you're not seeing huge job growth numbers for mining, the mining sector is very, very healthy in Australia and in WA in particular. So, and as a result of that, a lot of the companies headquartered there and have their head office roles, such as your CFOs, chief financial officers, their IT departments, and also their other support office roles, such as human resources. So you see that there is a bit of job growth in those areas in Perth due to the fact that they do need all those support services set up to support mining. And mining was deemed an essential service going into COVID, which is why they're having such good traction and not massive growth because they've been constant the whole way through COVID as well. Plus, Perth's a great place to live. That's where I live as well. Roles in demand. So what I did was a bit of a summary and going through where are some of the areas where we're seeing an increase in demand for roles, and that some of the roles will stay more static, such as mining. But these are some of the ones where there is a significant growth compared to what's been there in the past. So trades and services is one where there has been a big upswing. There's predictions around renovation markets and what that's meaning, and also to service in the different ways that businesses are operating at the moment. Health and medical, I'm sure, surprises no one with the changes that are happening with how we're having to deal with different health emergencies. Health and medical and also research in that space is one that's becoming very in demand, and that's something that they're really looking for more people with that skill set. Hospitality and tourism is an interesting one. As the borders have reopened in Australia, and we're very fortunate in some of the states to have no community exposure at all at the moment. Hospitality and tourism and really looking at what that market is locally has really changed, and that has driven a lot of roles that might have dropped off 4 or 5 months ago to really surge again. And another one that's probably of interest is manufacturing. Australia is not traditionally known as being a strong manufacturing environment, but that's something that is definitely a trend that is changing at the moment, and they're looking for people with skills in those areas. And the last one, which I'm sure is no surprise, is transport and logistics as well. Just given the sheer scale of Australia and also our export markets out to the world, transport and logistics is a massive, massive area of growth within Australia and in most of the markets as well across every state. Next slide, please. Just over to the next page, please. Okay. Is it possible to get to the next slide? I'm happy to talk to it if we can't move the next one on. So the next slide talks through what are some of the high-paying roles that are available at the moment. I'll talk through that while they're working out how to get that slide up. So within that, we've had a bit of a look around what are some of the roles that are paying really good money, significantly over what the standard roles are paying. And you find that there are a range of sectors within here. Engineering skills are a massive one at the moment as they're looking for different ways to keep the economy stimulated and growing into the future. So anything that's around construction and engineering is paying very well, and you'll see two of the roles sitting within there as principal engineer and also the construction director. Healthcare. So healthcare business manager is really people that have a broad skill set that can come in and help manage different departments or areas within generally private or public hospitals or different service providers in that space as well. Another niche skill set that's coming up is really looking at how do we support the banking and finance sector, and really looking at the IT skills that sit behind that as well. Hence why there's the Java developer trading role was one that's of interest at the moment. And with what's happening with technology internationally, we're not immune to that as well, and it's something that there's a lot of investment in at the moment at a local level. So anyone with IT skills or has the ability to run a PMO or project managed office is something that is in high demand at the moment as well. Next slide, please. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a snapshot around what's happening across the major centres in Australia. And as Audrey spoke to before, the great thing is that a number of the capital cities are included in the regional visas. So that means that opens up a wide range of opportunities for people who are looking to migrate. But how can I help you? So my role really is helping set you up so that you stand out from the crowd and are shone in the best light when you're looking to apply for roles. We, like everywhere else, there's a changing market around what people are looking for, and I can really help build your resume and cover letter. Look at LinkedIn, which is a great tool that is widely used here in Australia and is a great way to connect in with others across various industries or businesses. And I also help individuals and groups with how to put the best foot forward around preparing for interviews. So they do a lot of training in that space. But I also spend time really looking at people either transitioning between different careers or looking to take that next step in their career as well. So I offer services that can really help people get that next promotion that they're looking for. I also bring a wide range of market intelligence across Australia and New Zealand. I used to sit as an executive of one of the largest employers in Australia that had that portfolio. So I have some amazing insight into what different markets, not only in the state areas, but also regionally, are doing as well. And I also can give you some really good insight into how to work with applicant tracking systems and how to work in with the different AI that different businesses use now to make sure that your resume has got the right keywords in it to get through all their processes. So I offer a pretty niche service in that space as well. So that's a little bit about how I can help you as you look to migrate across to Australia. Next slide, please.
conclusion to make to the registrants for today? Hi, Bianca.
Yes.
Yes. Do you have any further conclusion to make to the registrants we are here today?
So the main thing is, there is jobs available, and there's some great jobs available. It's really just making sure that you understand the market that you're interested in and look at how we can help you get the best results possible to find that next step.
Thank you, Bianca, for your sharing. To conclude, so how you could get there for an Australian skilled visa? Step one, actually, you will need to discuss with your family, that's for sure. Get more information from the webinar that I'm sure pretty much of you have joining us here today. And you can also feel free to book a 30 minutes free consultation with us for an initial feedback. Because most importantly, don't think that you are not, you must not able to get the skilled visa, but please let us help you to evaluate your situation. So that would make to the step two. Go ahead and then let us to do the evaluation, and then we can further to assess your qualification or etc. and also explain all the options and also recommend the strategies to you. And for sure, the last step, we can confirm and also execute for the application. So that's all for today for our webinar. So is there, I saw that we will proceed to the Q&A section. So we saw that there are quite a lot of questions coming in during the presentation time. So I saw that there are a few questions for Audrey to reply first. Normally, how long is the whole application process?
So how long
Audrey,
the application process? Okay, it's usually about,
yes.
It actually differs. Okay, it'll differs, but if you're talking about an average time, you should give yourself at least about a year to year and a half. Generally, that is the general waiting time from end to end.
Thank you, Audrey. So for the people who would like to apply for the skilled visa, you can take this reference as well. And we saw that there is two participants who is interested in this visa application, but they are focused on the software part. They said that, they mentioned about that for the software developers, they need at least 95 points. There are two applicants who would like to know if that's really the case.
All right. Okay. So that information is actually correct. Okay. The 95 points is required, but then the question goes to 95 points is for which particular visa. So remember earlier just now, I was talking about the 3 visa categories. The skill independent subclass 189, and I mentioned that this visa is getting tougher. So the 95 cutoff point is actually for this particular visa. All right, because this visa gives you a direct PR. So the fact that it gives you a direct PR, it is standing at 95. But hence why if someone is not able to reach 95 points for that visa, we need to re-evaluate to see what are the other visa category we could actually make them apply to.
Got it.
Okay.
So basically, for the applicants who just don't worry about points, just feel free to make the free consultation with us and recommend which category would be suitable for you. Hey, Audrey.
That's right. That's right.
That's one more question, but this would be for Bianca. Do you would like to know actually which kind of skill set is much more easier to apply for a job? Bianca, would you like to share more about this with us?
Sure. I think it's really hard to give a definitive answer to that. The skill sets really depend on where you're located in Australia, because there are different markets that have different areas which they focus on. So I think anyone who has very general operational skills will be in every market. And as I spoke a little bit about before, you know, Sydney's known as the banking headquarters, but there are headquarters of banks in other locations, be it Melbourne, Perth and Brisbane as well. Mining is predominantly in WA, but there's also some in Queensland and South Australia. So it's really knowing which market matches the skills that you have to be able to look at where they're best utilised.
Got it. So there are one more question from a participant. Audrey, they would like to know under what kind of situation the visa application will be rejected?
Okay, it takes a lot for a visa application to be rejected. Okay, so if we're talking about a visa application to be rejected, I can only think of 3 main reasons, okay, which is number 1, the application was just not correctly filed, okay, because in our office, we don't have visa applications being rejected for no reason, unless there was something really, really wrong. And usually if there was once we had, it was due to a client failing medicals. So it's either if you fail the medical examination, that means you cannot meet the health requirements in Australia. And this only happens if you have a critical health condition, okay? Or you fail the criminal check. So you also, of course, have to be of good conduct to migrate to Australia. So if you fail this too, or if you have fake or fraudulent documents, or if your application was just not filed correctly. So it is not easy, especially if you have gone through your skills assessment, you've gotten an invitation, and even after that your visa application fails, that means something is terribly wrong somewhere, okay? And this is sometimes common among applicants who do their visas on their own, because they could have incorrectly claimed the points, which is a very, very high tendency for that.
Got it. So I think is if we proceed and we give all the advisory to the applicant, basically they don't have to worry too much about the visa application being rejected. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's correct.
There is one more question from the participant that is about the point system. Is the point system only apply for the applicants, or does this system also consist of age? Will it be also calculated in the point system as well?
Sorry, PN, you were breaking a little. Spouse, is it? Spouse.
Yeah, the spouse age. Will it be also counted in the point system as well?
Okay, so there are two categories. When a spouse there are 2 ways a spouse contributes points. One is just by sitting for the English test, and the other one is by contributing for the skill as well, partner skill. So if they're contributing partner skill points, they must be below 45 as well. The applicant and the spouse must be below 45. But if the spouse is just contributing the English test points, they can be above 45.
Got it. We saw that there are many different kind of questions on the chat room.
Sure.
That is workers still good.
Sorry, PN, I'm not too sure if it's on your side. I can't hear you clearly.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Bianca, this is a question for you, Bianca. Okay. There is a participant who would like to ask. I think most of the Hong Kong people are social workers as well, so I raised this question too. They would like to know if social workers is still good for applying visa right now.
It depends on which visa they are applying for, whether or not they can. I think Audrey might have more detail on that.
Yeah, so that's correct. So if it's social workers, yes, it is is a skill on demand. Okay, it is a skill on demand, but we will exactly need to see what are the person's background and the qualifications to assess them. So if someone has been working as a social worker and has got experience, do ask them to get in touch with us and we can assess them a little bit more in detail.
And there is definitely demand for those roles at the moment in Australia in most locations. So there's definitely a skill, there is definitely demand for those roles.
Wonderful, that's good.
Thank you both. One more question which I would like to ask Laura is, most of the Hong Kong people are working in banking and finance related field. Are there suitable jobs for those in banking and or finance related field in the regional areas?
Definitely. So if you look at how many banking and finance roles there are on Seek, even in the last week, there's over 2,000 of them. What's interesting though is the areas of which those banking and finance roles have the most roles. So compliance and risk roles are roles that are growing in terms of a demand at the moment, also along with financial planning, mortgage, and also analysis and reporting. So in terms of the finance market, it's definitely one that there is roles available in Australia at the moment.
Thank you, Bianca. So, Audrey, there is a participant would like to know if he or she is not in the managerial level, will the application be tougher?
Not necessarily at all, because when you are actually choosing your skill to migrate to Australia, they basically look at what is the type of role that you do. Okay, for example, if you are a public relations person, are you really doing the public relation roles? You don't have to be at a managerial level. Same goes to like marketing. As long as you're like, for example, in charge of marketing campaigns, right? Marketing research. These are the tasks of marketing, but you don't have to be a marketing manager. It doesn't work that way.
Got it. So don't worry about if you are managerial level now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would like to know, for the visa 491, can I run my own business to meet the income level? Audrey.
Yes, definitely. I forgot to cover that earlier in the slide, but yes, that's actually good. To meet the condition of the 3 years stay and the 3 years of employment, you can also be self-employed. So if you choose not to work for someone for the 3 years and you run your own business, that's totally fine and it's accepted.
Okay, thank you. Is something regarding to the English level, the level of the English. There is one participant would like to ask, is it difficult to apply the visa if he or she cannot get the IELTS point number 7?
Generally, I think that I need to be more specific to see what is this person's skill, okay? Because there is generally, I think if it's not even a 7, chances are lesser, okay? But I cannot rule out. Let me look at the person's skill, and then I can advise better. If you're an accountant, if you don't have a 7, definitely no go. That's for sure. Okay, if it's accountant, if you're IT without a band 7, no go. But so if this person is actually from a different skill, there's a possibility. So let us do the assessment for him.
Oh, got it. So basically it would be much, 0.7 is not a must, but we can see what's the skill set are so that we can further recommend it.
Yes, correct. Because immigration's requirement is actually 6. Okay, that is the basic requirement is a 6, but generally 6 doesn't work, but it's worth to see if it works for this person.
Probably the her skill set is in demand. So
yes, that's correct.
Get it. Yeah. Yep, cool. Thank you, Audrey. So I think that's pretty much more or less for the questions I got right now. So I think that's all for today. Audrey and Bianca, is there anything you would like to further share before we end our today's webinar?
Sure. So first of all, I think it's I hope that everyone found this webinar informative. Okay, and anyone who is interested in migrating to Australia, the only advice that I keep telling every client all the time is do not delay. Okay, because it only gets tougher year after year. Okay, it never gets easier. So if you are actually eligible today and you want to do it, you have to, don't procrastinate, but take the next action. Okay, because it never gets easier. So that's what you need to do. And we are here to support you, okay, with CCGi and of course with Bianca, and hence why we are all working together to make sure that we just don't get you the visa, but we also do an end-to-end solution to making sure you also settle well in Australia.
Thank you, Audrey. Bianca, is there any more you would like to share with us before we end our webinar today?
Sure, I'd just like to echo what Audrey said. We're here to support you, and it's great to know that you can go through this with a level of confidence that you've got a team around you that want to help you get the best outcome. So we're here and available when you need to help you navigate that. So thank you for your time today to listening for us.
Thank you, Bianca, and so also thank you, Audrey. So for the questions that are quite more specific in the chat room, basically our colleagues will further contact with you, and also you can also type the 30 minutes in the chat room, and our colleagues will further contact with you for a 30 minutes free consultation. So to conclude, never think that you would not be able to get the visa, but just consultation with us first. So probably you can get a chance. So that's all for today. Thank you, Audrey, and also thank you, Bianca, again for the sharing for today.
Thank you everyone. Stay safe, take care.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.